Hello, I'm Buttons Padine for UK Sailmakers, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Lessons Learned, UK Sailmakers podcast series where sailors get to listen in on conversations between other sailors so they can sail with confidence. Today I'm speaking with Butch Ulmer. Hello, Butch.
Hi, how are you?
Just great. Butch is not only the former president of UK Sailmakers, which his dad started in the 30s, the 40s, the 40s. He's also a world-class sailor, just became part of the Sailing Hall of Fame here in the United States. But on top of that, he is a great rules guru. And today we're going to be talking to Butch about a couple of different rules that were modified in the recent release of the Racing Rules of Sailing, particularly about obstructions and when to hail and not to hail. So Butch, let's look at this first illustration. On this green boat on a starboard tack approaching a anchored power boat. Is that boat an obstruction?
Yes, it's an obstruction. It's an obstruction because it's a big piece of whatever floating in the it's in the on the course line of the boat that's sailing, and more importantly, it will take the sailboat. The sailboat will have to make a substantial alteration of course or tack in order to miss it, and that's part of the definition of obstruction.
Okay, let me at this point bring up the definition of obstruction. It says an obstruction is an object that a boat could not pass without changing course substantially, were she sailing directly to it within one of her hull lengths of it. So I think that's what you're talking about in this image, where I would have to change my course substantially to avoid that object. So then it becomes an obstruction.
Yes, it's an obstruction anyway, but not insofar as the application of the rules are concerned. I mean, it's obviously there, so it's an obstruction. But insofar as the rules are concerned, it has to be large enough and in a position where the boat that's sailing has to make a substantial alteration of course, or in this case, or tack, in order to miss it.
Okay, well, let's look at this next image here. Now I'm the green boat again, and I realize that that's an obstruction, and there's a red boat to my right, and I'm calling for room to tack. What's the situation there?
Well, that's one of the situations where the boat, the anchored boat, is an obstruction by definition, and when that situation arises, the leeward boat, in this case boat number one, is allowed to hail another boat on the same tack for room to tack.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. In this situation, the green boat to leeward, is that a substantial alteration to miss that obstruction?
Yeah, it would be, sure. To turn, she'd have to turn enough to miss the stern of the anchored boat, and in that case, it would be probably a 75-degree turn. Yeah, she'd have to turn substantially to miss it, and she'd be lucky if she could. If there was any velocity in the wind, it would be a dangerous maneuver.
I am the leeward boat, and I'm hailing room to tack.
Right.
Talk to me about that hail.
Well, that hail, in accordance with the new rules, first of all, to make that hail, you've got to use those words. You have to use within the verbiage you use for your hail, that you must include room to tack. And then, of course, you've got to be loud enough to make sure that they hear you, and that's of course one of the dangers of a situation like this. If it's blowing hard, it's very difficult with all the other noise you're getting on a sailboat to hail and make sure it is heard by another boat, and she can't tack and then hail. She's got to hail so that two tacks and gets out of the way. Otherwise, you're going to have a collision.
Okay, so I'm the leeward boat, you're the windward boat. I hail room to tack. What is your response?
There were two possible responses. One is you tack, and at that point, it becomes my obligation to give you room to tack and keep clear of me. And the second and more likely response on my part would be to simply tack as quickly as I could.
Understood. And you know, in all of these situations, the diagrams are a little bit compressed because of space.
Of course.
This is where I always tell people to anticipate. You know, think not just a boat length ahead, but more than that.
Absolutely. I mean, that situation, you didn't get into that situation without sailing for a while, and you had to see it coming.
Right. So I put a slide up here that says hailing for room to tack. And it says you may hail room to tack, and that's in quotes, when sailing close hauled and approaching an obstruction. Okay. I think the close hauled is key, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But here's our slide where we're asking, is the green boat to leeward and the red boat to windward? The obstruction is now a finished boat. Red boat appears to be laying the finish line. Green boat is not. And the leeward green boat calls room to tack. Talk to me about that situation.
Well, that's one of the situations where the rules make such a hail illegal. You can't hail for room, or you're not entitled. Let me say, you can hail, but you break a rule by hailing there, and you're not entitled to room to tack because the obstruction is a mark of the course, which the other boat is fetching. So I would define the position of boat number one as being in coffin corner. And once again, it's one of those things that both boats have to see developing. And now, depending on the kind of boat, if these were heavy displacement boats that carry their way along a good distance, and there's a reasonably fresh breeze blowing so that they're moving pretty quickly, one could luff head to wind until she cleared the committee boat and anchor line, and she would have finished the race and beaten two. But if that were an IC dinghy, which we sail a lot here at Larchmont, they don't carry their way very far at all, and they're particularly not so good if you're going into a head sea. They'll stop on a dime. So she would not be able to shoot and clear the committee boat. And having seen that coming, her alternative was to jibe out of there or simply let her sails luff. She is a leeward boat. Let her sails luff until two sails over the top of her, and she can maneuver.
Again, anticipation.
Exactly.
Let me put up a slide now, which addresses hailing for room to tack. and this is repeating what you said, but it's making it formal. It said, you may not hail for room to tack if the obstruction is a mark, and the boat that is fetching the mark would have to change course because of your hail. Okay, back to that earlier slide. It is fetching the course, or fetching the finish line. So red would have to change its course, alter its course for you to get in there.
Yeah.
So that,
Now, once again, one is a leeward boat, and she's still a leeward boat in that position, and therefore the right-of-way boat. And two must keep clear of her. So she could luff head to wind, and two, being the windward boat, would have to keep clear of her and sail over the top of her. But if she forced to tack in that situation, she'd be subject to protest.
right, okay. So anticipation is the first thing. Second thing, she could have bailed out. Third thing, if she's got a heavy enough boat, she can, you know,
Yeah.
slide up there. If not, if she, first off, hailing for room to tack there is an offensive, it's a protestable offense.
Exactly.
And were she to force red to tack, to tack, then she has broken the rules again.
Well, let me touch on that again. If she luffs head to wind, but does not go past head to wind, she remains a leeward boat, and two must keep clear of her. And if that requires, if two has to tack because she's falling down on the leeward boat, that's two's problem. That's a situation where one has all the rights in the world to luff and to stop there as a leeward boat if she can avoid blowing down onto the committee boat. But she can't hail for room to tack. And if she hails for room to tack, she has broken the rules.
Thank you. Let me look at this last example here. Okay, so Butch, here's a situation where two boats are reaching across the starting line on port tack, and they're approaching a third boat, number 3, which is close hauled on starboard tack. The leading boat of the pair, number 2, the red one, calls for room to tack. So Butch, what are we seeing in this situation here?
Well, what we're really seeing is a port starboard situation where two port tack boats are approaching a starboard tack boat. And they have to keep clear. And the question is the forward leeward port tack boat and able to hail, allowed to hail for room to tack? And the answer is no, she cannot hail for room to tack because neither of them are sailing close haul. So it's very simply a port starboard situation where they have, if they want to, if one wants to tack, he can, but more than likely, both of them would end up bearing off and sailing astern of the starboard tack boat here.
Technically speaking, though, is the starboard tack boat an obstruction?
Yes, it's an obstruction because both port tack boats have to keep clear.
Okay, so I'm going to put up this slide now. It says, hailing for room to tack. You may hail for room to tack when sailing close hauled and approaching an obstruction.
Correct.
So good to go there. All right. Well, Butch, thanks ever so much for joining us. Thanks for everything you've given this sport and the UK Sailmakers. And thanks for helping us be a little smarter and helping us learn a few more lessons.
I hope.
think we'll come back in a couple of weeks and do a follow-up of this, because there are more rules that need explanations. So thank you very much.
Would be my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining another episode of UK Sailmakers Lessons Learned. You can access the full Lessons Learned library in the how-to section of uksailmakers.com. Episodes are also available on our streaming channel, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Apple Music. For UK Sailmakers, I'm Buttons Padine, and I hope this lesson learned will help you sail with confidence.